and welcome back, listeners, to Mind Over Matter. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are diving deep into the intricacies of mental health with someone who has not only faced incredible challenges but also turned them into a source of strength and inspiration. Our guest, Tyler Kania, is a rugby player, coach, and author of The Maniac with No Knees. Listeners, Tyler's journey is one of resilience, navigating life with bipolar disorder, enduring serious injuries, and finding a way to thrive despite it all. His story is raw, real, and deeply moving, listeners. So let's quickly get into the conversation today. Tyler, welcome to the show, and it's an honor to have you today with us.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Tyler, when did you first notice that something was off, especially with regards to your mental health? How did you realize that?
Yeah, well, that was kind of a journey that took about a decade, and it's the basis for my book. You know, in college, I started to kind of act out a little. Bipolar is something that typically doesn't manifest until the mid-20s.
Mhm.
Um, but I was a pretty decorated rugby player. I played the position of fly half, which is a lot like quarterback.
Okay.
And I won a lot of championships, and I made a lot of all-star teams, and I got recruited to play for a premier team with guys that were on the national team, and I thought that I might be a professional rugby player. Um, but when I ruptured my patellar tendon for the first time, and a ruptured patellar tendon is basically when your knee goes into your quad. It happens once for every 147,000 human years, and I've actually done it twice now. But so when that happened for the first time, that was the emergence of mania. I had never had mania in my life before, and it completely flipped my life upside down. I quit rugby. I broke up with my girlfriend. I quit a six-figure job in cybersecurity sales. I moved to Idaho. I almost died in the Grand Canyon. I did all of these things, and I didn't really understand what it was. And it progressively got worse over the next 10 years after that, ultimately sending me into a mental health institution after some suicide attempts where I finally got the treatment that I needed, and I was finally given lithium as a mood stabilizer, which has truthfully saved my life. So it
Oh,
was definitely a journey of really figuring it out. But
mhm.
when I did figure it out, it was so relieving to have a explanation for my behavior, because up until then I didn't know how to explain what happened to myself when these bouts of mania or bouts of depression would occur. So
Hmm. I mean, yeah, there's so much that happened, and then, but this entire journey kind of helped you in having that self discovery or self awareness about yourself, both as an athlete and a person. And I think it's an opportunity. It was an opportunity in disguise. Um, Also, Tyler, you know, I believe that you mentioned that manic episodes, they gave you superpowers. So can you describe what that felt like, and especially in high stress environments like rugby?
sure. And it's not just mania. I think it's just the way that bipolar manifests itself in the brains of people. Um, just as much as Maniac can be a superpower, so too can depression. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Um, after I had quit my first job and moved to Idaho, I ended up getting another job at a cybersecurity startup in Connecticut, and I made $250,000. The age out when I was 26 years old, and mania happened again, and I ended up quitting that job, and I spent the next year completely depressed in my room reading 300 pages of literature a day. Um, I didn't want to be in my world. I wanted to travel to different worlds. And, I didn't really see any friends. I didn't really want to do anything but read. And what came out of that was, you know, someone who was much smarter than I ever thought that I would be. You know, bipolar gives you curiosity, it gives you creativity, it gives you empathy and objectivity. And then when you get manic, yeah, mania can be a superpower. And I started my book when I was manic because when you're manic, you do not care what other people think. You're righteous. You have one goal in mind and do not see any risk. Um, so it can be really empowering at first. You talk really fast and you think really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in some ways a blessing to not care about what other people think. But eventually, that risk on behavior, forces some really tragic things to happen in your life when you're manic. And when that finally does happen, like I'll give you an example. I started a cryptocurrency company and I thought it was going to be very successful. I went to the Ethereum conference and I pitched it to venture capitalists and to chief technology officers. And the mania had me thinking that I was truly going to change the world. Like
Okay.
I was like convinced. But when I went home, I was still manic and I trusted someone on the internet with the secret code to my wallet and I lost $450,000. And when that happens, the mania goes away and the depression comes on, the suicidal thoughts come on, and it can leave you bedridden for a long time. So yeah, mania can be a superpower. Depression can be a superpower, but they can also ruin your life. And I've seen both sides of the coin, but I consider myself blessed because, all the experiences that I've had have shaped me into a person that I'm proud of and a person that's willing to stand up for, the outcasts that have my affliction or that suffer from mental illness. And, it's made me bold enough to, not care that people think I'm crazy. And that's a really liberating feeling.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can totally relate with that, and they are, and our listeners would also very much relate to the feelings. And Tyler, writing the Maniac with no knees, as you said, it is. It, I'm very sure it must have been a deeply personal and vulnerable process for you. What was the turning point, or why? How you got inspired to share your story with the world out there?
Yeah. Well, I think that I have a really interesting story, and I had always been ashamed of myself, and I didn't want my friends or anyone to know the secrets behind my life or what I had gone through. Um, and it's really tough to live life when you are putting on a facade that you're okay, but you're really not. And when I ruptured my patellar tendon for the second time this spring, you know, when I got institutionalized in the fall of 2022, that was kind of the turning point of getting my life back. And I was able to find a job at like the largest cybersecurity firm in the world. And I was working hard to get back on the rugby field. And I
Mhm.
thought that 2024 was going to be the year where I finally proved to the world what I could do on the rugby field. And I finally proved to the world what I could do in my profession. Um, and then when I ruptured my patellar tendon, all of that kind of fell apart. I'm a substance abuser, and my parents were apprehensive to give me painkillers, and those pain, the pain that I felt in my knee, led me to not sleep for 3 days and 3 nights, and it brought about mania, and I had severe mania, and I had to get hospitalized for it. But when I left the hospital, I was still manic, and I wanted my friends to know what I had been through. Like I said, I didn't care what people think when I was manic, and so I just opened the notes app on my phone and started publishing, the first draft of my story, and the collective feedback was incredible. I had people I hadn't heard from, reaching out. I had people that struggle with mental illness reaching out. I had, young rugby players who looked up to me, and all these people. And, I thought that, this would be an opportunity to, um, speak up for those that struggle. Um, and it was a great experience. And, that same mania that caused me to write the book, got me fired from my job. I forwarded 2 emails to a customer that were meant for a reseller because I wasn't thinking in my right mind. And so I lost my job the same week that I finished the first draft of my book, which was a blessing in disguise because it gave me the next 5 months to work full time on editing and really put out a piece of work that I could be proud of. So, yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. And somehow the universe, as we all know it, the universe works in mysterious ways. Good or bad, everything happens for a reason. Uh, Beautiful, Tyler. Also, as you mentioned, you have spent time in mental health institutions, which are often stigmatized. So, from your experience, what changes or improvements do you think these institutions need to better support individuals like yourself?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot that they need to improve on. But first, let me say that, again, it was the turning point for me. This was when I was formally diagnosed with bipolar. It was when I got those answers and when I was prescribed lithium. Um, but it was the people that I met there that were truly inspirational. When you're an inpatient, they don't try and heal you. They try and stabilize your condition so that you're not a threat to yourself or to anybody else. Um, you don't go outside. I spent 10 minutes outside on a patio the entire time I was there. There was one TV for 30 people, and the only guy that controlled the remote was the only Spanish speaker in the institution. There were people with schizophrenia. There were people with, you know, narcissism. There were people that needed electroshock therapy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and, my roommate had aphasia, and aphasia is when you have trouble talking because of a trauma. And I ended up, talking to him just because I was bored, and eventually he talked back. It was the first time he had spoken in several weeks, and I was inspired by him. I was inspired by other people who had been through traumas that I could never imagine, and you know, it left me feeling fortunate. Left me feeling like I have so many blessings that the people around me in these places um do not have. And I'm someone who, my parents have a lot of money, and they educated me from a young age to read books, and I was blessed with good looks and athleticism. And these blessings made me realize that, like, look, I'm in a unique position to stand up for these people because a lot of them are ashamed and a lot of them don't have the resources or the education to share their story. And so it's become taboo and it's become stigmatized. And so, this project of mine has been all about trying to, free us a little and let other people that suffer understand that you're not alone and that, you can do great things and that you can conquer this thing. And I think that's what it's all about.
Very rightfully said, Tyler. Also, creativity, what I believe, what I see, creativity seems to have been a key part of your healing process. You wrote your book, you shared your story with uh, all of the people out there, which I'm very sure helped you work through the emotional ups and downs of living with bipolar disorder. So, do you find that creativity offers a sense of stability or catharsis in the face of mental health challenges?
Yeah, definitely. I think that when when you're struggling, there's certain things that can help you. You need a support network, you need a community, friends, family, people that are interested in the same things as you. And you need an outlet. You need something that brings you confidence. And um, for me, for a long time it was painting. But I realized that through words I could really, make a difference. And,
Mm.
it's been, writing this book. This summer I went through a terrible tragedy, something really traumatic, and I don't know how I would have gotten through it if I didn't have this book to focus on every day. I woke up in the morning and I had a goal in mind, and I was driven, and this kind of kept my demons at bay, because I was so focused. And it's just so important when you struggle to find something to use as an outlet. Um, and I'm really blessed that it took so long, but I finally did find that thing. So it's been great.
Exactly. Great, great, Tyler. Also, mental health struggles, they can often feel isolating. So, for someone listening today to you, Tyler, who might feel stuck or hopeless, or they are on the verge of giving up, what would you say to encourage them to take that first step, that first, that action toward healing?
Yeah. Um, well, the first thing is like, look, you're stronger than you think you are. The people that don't have to deal with tragedy or struggle or depression, they're unfortunate, because it's the bad things in life that make us better people.
Yeah,
And so when you're struggling, you just have to remember that this is making me a better person. And, if you can find a way to get through that, you're going to realize that it was all for a purpose. Like for me, it's like, yeah, I tried to hang myself. I tried to overdose on drugs. I had illusions of death all the time. I would walk my dog and I would see myself hanging from a tree. And that's just, it was something that engulfed me and something that surrounded me with every thought. And it's impossible to think that you can ever get through that. Um, but those experiences, you know, turned me into someone who, has a story worth telling and has a story that can inspire people to keep going. Um, and if you can just survive each day, eventually, I think that you're gonna find that purpose, and it's gonna be worth it when you do.
absolutely. Beautifully said, Tyler. Great. So, Tyler, for our listeners, they wish to connect with you and get a hold of your book as well, how they can do that.
Yeah, so my book will be available in early February. Right now you can go to tylerkania.com, tylerkania.com, and you can pre-order it. We won't ask for any money right now. We'll just ask for your email address so that when it's ready, you'll get an automatic email that will bring you to the website where you can purchase the book. Um, and besides that, like I said, I started my story on Instagram and I've kept my Instagram followers abreast to, you know, everything that's coming out with my book, with my podcasts, with, you know, my story. And you can follow along too at Tyler_Kania on Instagram.
Lovely, lovely, Tyler. We'll have all the links mentioned in the show notes for our listeners to, uh, get in touch with you very, very easily. And uh, thank you so much, first of all, for sharing your remarkable, super inspiring journey with all of us today. And, your honesty about navigating the challenges of bipolar disorder, then overcoming physical setbacks, and then also seeking strength in vulnerability. I think it's truly, truly inspiring for all of us, irrespective of our profession or our personal lives. And, Really, your story gives us the true definition of the power of resilience, creativity, and hope. So thank you for this conversation, Tyler.
It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
To all our listeners, you know that's what we talk about in all of our shows. Mental health is a journey, and seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness, listeners. Let's continue to break the stigma, support one another, and create spaces where healing and growth are possible. So, if Tyler's story resonated with all of you, remember that you are not alone in your struggles. Until next time, this is your host Sana reminding you to take care of your mind, nurture your soul, and always believe in the power of transformation. Stay well, and we'll see you in the next episode of Mind Over Matter. Thank you.
Thanks, Sana.